In this video, we're going to do two examples where we look at problems where we're going to use a three-circle Venn diagram to organize information and answer questions. So in this first problem, we've got 27 people at a park that were surveyed about their pets. So 27 people, that's probably important. That's the total number of people surveyed. So we're going to remember that. And then responses indicated that 19 had dogs. And notice I made a list over here on the side as I read this through the first time. So 19 have dogs, 10 have cats, 5 have birds. And then 6 had both dog and cats, 4 had dogs and birds, and then 1 had both cats and birds. And then there was one individual that had dogs, cats, and birds. So we're going to draw a Venn diagram to organize all this information and then answer these questions. So I'm going to draw my diagram, and like usual, you have some choices in terms of how you draw it. There's no one right way. I'm going to choose to just put cats and birds and dogs. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through my list that I jotted down here. And usually I find it's easier to kind of go through this list rather than go through the paragraph, but you've got to find what works for you. And so what I always do is I start with the number. If it's given, it's not always given, but in this problem it is. If they give you the region where all three circles overlap, which is right here, dogs, cats, and birds, that's the very center of the Venn diagram. So right here is dogs plus cats plus birds, all of those together. And since there's one person who has a dog, a cat, and a bird, we're going to put a 1 there. That's the only number in the entire diagram that you can just put right in the diagram without having to do anything else. So I'm just going to put a little check there. I'm done with that one. Then I'm going to work my way up. And so the next one is cats and birds together. And so I'm just going to highlight here where that is. So cats and birds together is this entire region here. The problem though is there's already a 1 there. And so yes, there's one person who has cats and birds, but I can't just put a 1 right here because there's already a 1 there. So since there's already a 1 in that region, I'm actually going to put a 0 here because there's already a 1 there and there needs to be 1 total in that entire region. And so one person has cats and birds, that takes care of that. So now I'm going to move up my list. Dog and bird is 4. So where does dog and bird overlap? Well, it overlaps right here. And then you want 4 in there total. Now you already have a 1 there. So what we're going to do is we're going to say 4 minus 1 is 3. And there's going to be a 3 here. The reason I had to subtract is there was already a 1 in that region, and there needs to be 4 altogether. So if I put a 3 here, then 3 plus 1 is 4, and that means that there are 4 people in the dog and bird region. So I did that correctly. Okay, so I'm just going to erase my shading here. And I'm going to move up my list. So now we're at dog and cat. So there are 6 people that have a dog and cat. So where is that? Well, this region is where dog and cat circles overlap each other. And there are 6 people that should be in that region, but there's already a 1 there. So I'm just going to do 6 minus 1 is 5. And that tells me that a 5 needs to go here. So that 6 altogether is in the dog and cat region. Next, I'm going to look at birds. So if I look at the bird circle, that's this entire circle here. That entire circle needs to have 5 in it. Well, let's examine what's already in this circle. So we should have 5, but there's already a 0, a 1, and a 3 in the circle. So 1 plus 3 is 4. So there's already 4 inside the bird circle. So I'm just going to take off 4 from 5, and that leaves me 1 left over. So then always double check that you have 5 in the bird circle. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that gives me 5, and that checks out. Next, I'm going to look at cats. So the cat circle is right here, and they said that there are 10 people that have cats, and so I'm going to write 10, and then I'm going to look at what's already in that circle. So there's already a 5 and a 1 and a 0, so 5 plus 1 is 6. So if there's already 6 in the circle, I'll take that off a 10, and that leaves 4 remaining. So now if I count everything in the cat circle, I get 4 plus 1 is 5 plus 5 is 10. So I have 10 total in the cat circle, so that checks out. And then the last circle is dog. And so if I identify where dog is right here. And I'm supposed to have 19 people who have dogs. Well, there's already a 5, a 1, and a 3 there. So 5 plus 1 is 6, plus 3 is 9. So if I take off 9 from 19, I end up getting 10. So that means there are 10 people who only have dogs. But if I add all of the numbers in the dog circle, I get 10, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 total. So that checks out. Okay, and then the last step is looking at the outside of the circles. And so we want to look at the total number of people that were surveyed, and we were told 27 people were at the park. So I'm just going to write that down. So 27 total people were at the park. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add all of the numbers in the Venn diagram. So we're going to take all of these, and I'm going to write them down so I don't forget any. So I've got a 10, a 3, a 1, a 5, a 4, a 0, I don't have to write down, and then a 1. And if I add those all up, I end up getting 24. So that's 24 inside the circles. So if there are 24 people represented inside the circle and there were 27 people surveyed, I'm going to take that off of the 27 and I get 3 for the outside of the circle region. So you can just put a 3 somewhere outside those circles. So now we're done with the Venn diagram. That's the hardest part. Now we have to go through and we have to answer the questions. So for part A, we want to know how many people like only dogs. Well, that's referring to this 10 here because we're only looking at the part of the dog circle that's not touching the cat and the bird circle. So there were 10 people who only like dogs. And that would be really hard to answer if we had just looked at the problem because the paragraph didn't tell us that. We had to actually go through the Venn diagram in order to find that out. And so B asks us how many people had a dog and a cat but not a bird. So dog and a cat but not a bird. So that means we're looking at where the dog and the cat circle come together, which is right here, but I'm not going to touch the bird circle. So I'm not going to include this 1 because that would be a part of that B circle. So there were 5 people that had a dog and a cat but not a bird. Okay, so then the next part, we're looking at cats or birds. So remember with or, you can count the just people who only like cats, only like birds, or like both cats and birds. So we're looking at all of C and all of B. They didn't put any restrictions on dogs, so it doesn't matter if it includes that dog circle or not. I'm just going to circle all the cats and all the birds. And so I'm going to write down all those numbers. So I have a 4 plus 5 plus 1. Don't have to write down the 0, plus 3 plus 1. And if we add all of those together, we end up getting 14. Okay, so I'm just going to erase my shading there. And for the next one, how many people like cats or dogs, but not both? So this one, I'm going to look at the cat circle. I'm basically just going to avoid the part where the cat and the, whoops, not the birds. We're going to go down below here. I'm going to avoid the part where the cat and the dog circle overlap. So the cat and the dog circle overlap right here, where that 5 and the 1. So I'm just going to look at the part of the cat circle that's not touching the dog circle, and then the part of the dog circle that's not touching the cat circle. So these would be people who like cats or dogs, but not both. So I'm going to write down all of the numbers that apply there. So we're looking at 4 and 0, so 4 plus 0, and then the 3, and then the 10, and then we get 17. And then the last one, how many have none of these pets? Well, since we did all the hard work doing the Venn diagram, this is really easy to answer. Not so easy in the beginning, but now that we have the diagram, it's easy, and that's that 3. So that 3 is referring to the number of people that would be in the outside of the Venn diagram that don't have any of those pets. So 3 people have none of these pets. All right, so let's try another example. So in this one, we've got 35 kids in a summer camp. They're surveyed about fruit likings to go along with their pizza party on the last day. We're going to draw a Venn diagram and then find the number of kids liking, and then we've got all of those questions below. So I'm going to start by drawing a Venn diagram with 3 circles. It doesn't really matter how I draw it as long as I have the 3 circles. So I'll draw mine like this, and I'll say this is apples, and then grapes, and then oranges. And then I'm going to work through the diagram and see if there's any numbers that I can put directly just right in the diagram. And so for instance, like oranges, there's 13 kids who like oranges. I don't know where to put that yet because the orange circle contains several different regions. And so I don't know how that 13 is going to be broken up. So I'm actually going to go down at the bottom where it says apples and grapes, but not oranges. So where is that region? So apples and grapes, where they overlap, but not oranges. So that would be right here. And so that tells us we can just stick a 4 right in that region. We don't have to do anything else. And so now let's go ahead and work our way up the diagram. So I'm just going to erase that shading. The next one, apples and grapes. So where's apples and grapes? So really similar to the last one, only this one I can include oranges. I want the entire region where apples and grapes overlap. And if there's already a 4 there and a 7 needs to be in that entire region, that can help us figure out what needs to go here. So here in this part, we're going to have 7 minus 4, which is 3. And so I'm just going to erase that. Arrow is kind of big here. We'll just do 7 minus 4 is 3, so we'll put a 3 right there. Now let's look at oranges and grapes. So oranges and grapes overlap right here, and we already have a 3 in that region, and so we're supposed to have a 6 altogether. So all I'm going to do is 6 minus 3 equals 3. And that way, if you look now, I've got a 3 here and a 3 here. So altogether in the oranges and grapes region, I have 6 altogether. Next, I'm going to do oranges and apples. So that's, let's see, right here. And again, I already have a 3 in that region. Oranges and apples should be 8 altogether. So I'm just going to do 8 minus 3 is 5. So if I put a 5 here, 5 plus 3 is 8, then I end up having 8 in that region altogether, which is what I want. Now I'm going to move up to grapes, and so I'm just going to highlight where that grape circle is. It's right here, and I should have 20 all together in the grape circle. And so I've already got a 4, a 3, and a 3. So 4 and 3 is 7, and then 8, 9, 10. So I already have 10 there in the grape circle. So I'm going to do 20 minus 10 is 10. And so if I put a 10 here, well, let's just add it up. 10 plus 4 is 14, plus 3 is 17, plus another 3 is 20. So now I have 20 total in the grape circle, which is what I want. Now we'll look at the apple circle, which is right here. What do we already have in there? A 5 plus 3 is 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I have 12 in the apple circle altogether, but I should have 15. And so I'm just going to do 15 minus 12 is 3. And that tells me that I need a 3 here in the apple circle. So 3 plus 5 plus 3 plus 4, if you add that all together, you end up getting 15. And then the last circle left, the orange circle, is right here. And so if I look here, I've got 5 and then 3 and 3. So that's 11 if I add those up. Well, I should have 13 in the orange circle. So now what I have to do is do 13 minus the 11 that's already there. And I end up getting a 2. And so that means a 2 needs to go here. And then just to double check, 2 plus 5 is 7, plus 3 is 10, plus another 3 is 13. So that checks out. I have 13 in the orange circle. And then the last step, we can't forget about this last step, is figuring out what number goes on the outside of the circles. And so to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to add up all of the numbers in the inside of the circles. So we're going to add a 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 3 plus 10 plus 3 plus 2. We're just going to add all of the numbers here that we see. And if you add all of those, you end up getting 30. And they told us 35 kids were in the summer camp. So we're missing 5. So if we do 35 minus 30, we end up getting 5 that needs to be outside those circles. So 5 kids did not choose apples, grapes, or oranges as their fruit liking. So now we're completely done with the diagram. Now we need to just answer the questions. So we did the hard part. So part A said, how many kids like only grapes? And so we're looking for the part in the grape circle that's not touching the apple or orange circle, and that would be these 10 kids right here. How many kids liked grapes or oranges but not apples? So I'm going to shade this one. So I want to avoid the apple circle. So grapes or oranges, so these but not apples. So I'm just going to kind of highlight around that apple circle so that I don't include the apple circle. And I'm looking for everything in here. So I'm just going to add up all of those numbers that I highlighted. So that would be a 2 plus 3 plus 10. and that would be 15 kids total. How many kids liked all 3 fruits? That would be in the very center of the diagram, so that would be 3. How many kids like grapes and oranges, but not apples? Okay, so we're looking for where grapes and oranges overlap because and means they have to like both of them at the same time. So we've got grapes and oranges right here, but notice that I'm not including this 3, which would be inside the apple circle. So I'm staying outside the apple circle. So it looks like there are 3 kids who like grapes and oranges, but not apples. And then last question, how many kids like grapes or oranges or apples? So or means they could like only grapes, only apples, only oranges, or they could like any combination of those. So basically this is asking for any kid that would be represented on the inside of any of these circles. So it would be all of these numbers. And really, we already added those up. We added those up right here. And so when we added those all up, we ended up getting 30 total kids that were represented on the inside of the circle or who liked grapes or oranges or apples.